Hello there guys, and welcome back to our car modeling tutorial. And today, in this episode, what I think we'll do is we're going to make a start on some of the smoothing in between episodes I went through, and I start to get rid of all the elements of the honeycomb mesh that we don't need at the front here, so it'll start to look quite nice going around there. We worked a little bit on this area and we duplicated those across as well. What we could maybe do is we're going to start to think about how this is going to how we're essentially going to break up all these different panels and things inside here. But before we do that, I just want to make one more change to the front end. I also want to make a little change back here too, because I feel like back here there should be a little bit of a difference between inside here. I think with this, for example, I think we're actually wanting to take this down, maybe something like that instead. I'll get rid of that, and then what we'll do is I'm just going to target weld those back up here. So I think we're wanting to do something like that. There is a little bit of a difference inside there, and then we'll maybe rectify the rest of that glass a little bit later, but just have that in there. That'll help me remember what it is that we need to do a little bit later on for that. What we also probably should do as well is down here I've been looking on some examples, and there's a lot more of a curve to this as it goes in and underneath here. So I think we want to take that much further in there like that. Maybe just a little bit here too. It's got much more of a curve on this bit there, so that's looking fine. Okay, so let's have a think then in here. I'm wanting to insert another edge loop. I want to drop that maybe somewhere just like that. And then with this, I'm going to maybe grab each of these and pull those in. This time for these ones, maybe I'm going to grab my edge slide and pull those this way just a little bit, maybe not quite that much, something like that. And then what we want to do is here, is we just want to do a little bit more of a curve. So for example, if I was to hit 3 on here, we see that we want this to align there when it's smoother. So I'm going to pull that over there, something like that. It looks like I'm going to need to get rid of my edge slide, so I'm just going to dial that back a little bit there. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm just going to grab this one here and pull in this direction there. And I'm just going to use 3 just to check, so I'm thinking that looks good. So I think that location there is going to look quite nice. But because we have separated these bits down here, we are going to need to add a bit more detail in here as well, which is a little bit awkward because we're going to want these to try and match up a little bit. So I'm going to drop in an edge loop maybe about there, and then we're also going to want to add one to this bit here again, just to roughly match where that is, because every time we start to smooth all these elements here, we need to make sure that everything is kind of sitting how it should. Let's go and see in our front view. So we're going to want to take all of this. So I'm going to take that over there. Inside here we have these two already selected. And I'm going to take that just a little bit. Maybe something like that. So take that in. And then let me just isolate these two selections here. Because obviously if we scaled this in, and what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to bring in that one point here at the front, or maybe take all of them, because we want it to be fairly uniform, so I'll bring that over here. Selected a bit too much there, so let's bring that back. So I'm going to bring this in so it's as close to that point as possible, and then when I'm happy with its position, I'm just going to select this one vertex. I'm going to hold down V, and I'm going to snap it up there. Okay, And then I'm just going to check the front here. I'm going to maybe drag these a little bit over as well. Something like that. Okay. I'm thinking maybe this should actually come backwards as well. Maybe like that. Yeah, so I think we want that to be like that. Okay, and then once we're kind of happy with how that's sitting, I think that's going to look, for the most part, okay. We've already got our extra bits that are kind of extruding on and off this. Let's maybe think about some our first kind of elements in here that we're going to smooth. So let's maybe take these. I'm going to grab all of this along here. I'm going to pull this to the side, and then I'm going to pull this back here, just so that we can fill in that gap, getting those two parts there merging together a little bit nicer. I'm going to maybe grab these edges here and these ones just to start off with, and let's go for a edit mesh, and we're going to hit bevel on these. So I'm thinking maybe 0.6, and then I'll maybe add 3 segments inside there just to make it look a little bit nicer. I'm going to grab each of these steps, so all of those kind of individual little steps there. I'm going to bevel these ones too, but I'm going to go a little bit closer. So maybe go 0.2 and then just drop 1 segment for each of those inside there. And I think that will be everything we would need to do. I'm just going to hit 3 on my keyboard for that and just get rid of the wires, so we can see there that that's looking fairly nice and smooth inside there. Let me just turn that back. I think I'll maybe take this one as well. So I'll grab this one and I'm going to bevel this one. And again, I'm going to stay closer together and just add 1 more segment. Just because I've got a little bit of height in here. Go 0.1. So by doing that, it's going to help me maintain that height and stay a little bit closer to that portion up there. Now, it is going to go to a point in the middle, but that's not an issue because when we do merge these together, we'll be able to get rid of that point. And if I bring my wireframe back, we can see that the exact same has happened on this side. Oops. So we're looking nice underneath in terms of that smooth, which is good. Now, what I like to do when we start this smoothing process is I like to kind of swap everything out and add some items, some materials with a bit more of a specular to them. So I'm going to create a new blend, and I'm going to call this gloss black. And then I'm going to darken this down, maybe add a bit more specular, but we'll darken this down. And I'm going to just drag and select that over here. And that's just going to help us kind of see a little bit better. Maybe just make it a little bit darker. So that's going to kind of help us see any kind of imperfections. So as we rotate around here, we can see that the light's going to reflect off those quite nicely. And we can see that underneath here, we've got some really nice transitions inside here, which is cool. Okay, so we'll maybe have a look now at the main kind of component here. So we've got our main area that runs around. What we'll probably want to do is we'll probably want to do a few things. We did extrude in on this already, and that's already kind of got like an extra little edge kind of applied to it in there. So what we'll do is let's hit 3 on this first, and we can kind of see that that's starting to form the shape. When we hit 3 up here, we can see that that shape is matching, which is quite nice. Now, these 2 sections are sharing the exact same space, which isn't a problem. But what will happen is if we sharpen these edges up and then we sharpen this edge up, it will look almost as if it like runs between them. What we want is to have a little bit of kind of like almost as if it's like a little bit of a bulge. So we'll use the bevels for that, but first maybe what we'll do is we'll maybe bevel these two edges and maybe the very edge over here as well. Yeah, maybe we could bevel that one too. I think we'll want to bevel it down here. Let's actually maybe take the whole thing. Let's maybe take this one too. So we'll go all the way up around, essentially selecting all of those kind of frontal edges that we see there. And let's go to bevel. And I think maybe 0.5 looks okay. I'm going to maybe increase the segments to 2 as well, just to give us a bit more structure. So now when we hit 3, we can start to see that that is looking much nicer as it moves around there. I'm just having a look on some reference images real quick, and it doesn't look to be much of a point to this. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe what we could do down here is if we insert an edge loop, maybe at the bottom. So something like there. What that will do for us is that will help hold that a little bit tighter. We can see that as we're getting nice and close here that we've got a nice little rounded bubbled edge. So if we hit 3 on here and I remove my wireframes, we can see that we've got a little bit of a difference between where that contact is made in there. So that's looking quite nice. Now in here where we've added this extra line, we will need to reflect that on here, so it might actually be easier for us. I'm going to grab this one, I'm going to hold control and hit delete. It might actually be easier for us to add one in this direction, because that means that an edge can correspond across here, because we will want it to match. So if we hit 3, we'll get that same kind of effect, but then we'll also get the potential to add a much easier edge than a vertical one inside there. And again, let's go in here. I'm going to take my gloss black and apply it on here. So we can see that that's looking really nice and smooth as it runs around that portion of the car at the front. And then I can apply the same gloss over here as well, just so we can see that as it goes through. So that's looking really nice in there for us. Let's maybe think about this one. So we can see here that we've lost this corner. When we hit 3, we can see that we match it again, which is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the smooth from everything else around here. And let's go and grab all of the frontals, so all of those there. We do want to maintain this, so we'll look at that in a second, but I think if we grab all of those kind of front edges, I'm going to bevel these two. And I'm maybe going to go a little bit more for this. Maybe not a 1. I like to generally stay under 1, so we'll say maybe a 0.9. And then just increase the segments. Maybe add 2. Okay, so we can see by doing that down here, we've got a little bit of weirdness going on. So maybe rather than beveling, let's just reduce that back. Rather than beveling, what we could do is we could actually apply something else. Let's just take this here real quick. So what we could maybe do to kind of fix this is we could use our multi-cut tool, and we'll go down there, something like that. And then with our edges selected, we can grab this one and this one. I'm going to hold control and hit delete. So now we've got a much cleaner edge as it comes down there. Let's just make sure we're still sitting nicely in there. So let's maybe go again and grab all of these. And this time what we could do is we could also grab all of the kind of corresponding edges inside there. And I'll go to edit mesh, we'll hit bevel on this one. Again, I'm going to increase the fraction a little bit, maybe 0.6, and then drop maybe just one segment inside. Then we can hit 3. And what we can see now is that's a much better smooth. Let's hit 3 on this one as well. And just for now, we'll hit 3 up here. So we can see that inside there, we've got a much nicer smooth in there. We've got a little bit of a kind of gap in between these, a nice realistic gap between the kind of two plastics that would be there, or probably more like carbon fibre or something along here. And again, we've got a nice natural gap going across the top there as well, which is quite nice. What we would probably want to do is we'll probably want to go in here and then just do another job at deleting some of the faces from this portion here. I'm just trying to see if it's a gloss black. It does look like a potentially gloss black inside here, so let's grab our gloss black for in there. Let's drop those again in there too. So that's looking really nice, and let's just go maybe gloss black on the actual honeycomb. So we can start to see now how we're really looking nice and smooth inside there, especially around and down here, which is looking really nice. So we're starting to see kind of the process of what it is that we need to do for this vehicle. So maybe what we could do for the next task is we could start to think about maybe separating this front bumper. So let's go in here and we'll start to think about where these panel gaps are. So we do have a panel gap here. Looks like in my kind of optimizing that I might have ended up moving a few things around. So let me bring back my edge slide and bring this back down here. Just there. So we see that we have a panel gap in here. Okay. And what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get running along this edge just there. Now I'm having a look again at a bunch of reference images, and the panel gaps on this car look super thin, like really thin. So I think what the best idea for these is to well, it's actually, this one looks thin, this one in here looks thin, but then this one looks a bit chunkier. So that'll be chunkier because I assume we can access inside here for like a little bit of storage or something. So let's maybe go in and add this in, and I'm gonna grab my insert edge loop tool, and I'm gonna drop one in. I'm just gonna do a test at that. So we'll drop one in there. For me, that's a bit too far away, so I'm gonna go a little bit closer, something like that. Because the idea here is that we can add some bevels to this, and by adding those bevels, that's going to increase the distance between the panel gaps. So we can drop that there. I'm going to hold down and select my face, and I'm going to grab those faces and delete them. So you see now that we've got a nice little gap inside there. Let's double check our gap on here. Maybe turn my bit off. So it looks like we just want to kind of straighten this out a little bit. Okay, something like that looks good. Just for now, I'm actually going to go and delete all of these like inside faces there. I don't think we're going to need those. They're just going to get in the way at this stage. So we'll do that. And this again is a fairly thin panel gap. So I'm going to go and grab my insert edge loop tool. I'm going to drop that in there, nice and close. I want to just be a similar distance to what we have on this side of the headlight. So let's go in and grab that and hit delete. Got that gap in there too. Okay, and then the next one here is a little bit of a tricky one. Well, it will be tricky when we get over onto the actual hood itself, but we do have a gap that sits just here, and we can see that right now we have that in place and we're sitting just above that. So let's maybe just come a little bit further down here. Okay, go for my insert edge loop and we'll drop in here. And I was just looking at this side to get the gap, because over here what I can do is I can just stretch this away if I need to, easier than it would be to to adjust this one. Okay, so I think what we have here is we have a gap that runs all the way down, but then there's another gap, a panel gap, that runs along here. So that should be okay. So let's grab all of that. And then we can hit delete on that too. Okay, so now we've got all of that kind of separated, so we can grab this. I'm going to go to mesh, and then we're going to hit separate, and then that will bring in just our main body here for us. Then we grab this, and let's just hit delete on that. So we're going to take this here, I'm going to go to edit and duplicate special. If you remember, we looked at this previously. We'll select an instance here, a scale of -1. And we're going to drop that on there. So it means now that this is an instance of what we have over there, meaning that if I was to grab any of these points and then attempt to move them, it's going to do the same on both sides. So that's pretty good. Okay, so we're going to want to think about now what we're going to do to this panel in order to allow us to work on it, get it a little bit smoother. The first thing I'm going to do before anything else is I'm going to insert an edge loop down here. I'm going to drop it in at that same point, just there. And again, that's just to when we smooth this one off. It's once we add a little bit extra, this gap here should be the same kind of angle as what we have down there. Okay. So I've got this here. When I hit 3 on here, we can see that that side smooths off as well. Now at this point here, I'm going to start to maybe use a little bit less of the wireframe so we can kind of see how the kind of main makeup of the car is going to be. Also at this stage, it's generally nice to, again, we'll bring in another blend. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to say car paint, and then this could be whatever color we want it to be. I'm going to maybe go for maybe a yellow, then crank the specular up on that. Let me just drop that on and see. Let's just see the contrast on there. I'm just wondering for you guys seeing that on the recording. Let's actually maybe darken that down. Maybe I'll go for something a little bit darker, maybe a blue. Maybe something like that. Hopefully that'll be okay, so that we can see the wires on there. So I did make the wires a little bit smaller for this stage, but we can see here how the light is going to hit off there, and then when we hit 3 we can see how that's going to kind of highlight any irregularities in the body for us as we're going through. So the first stage I'm going to want to do for this is, firstly, let's have a go at hiding everything. We can see over here that we have these little extrusions down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these ones here and I'm going to delete them. So I'm just going to keep the 1 in there to kind of match the rest of the extra geometry in there. Okay. It is going to be a little bit awkward because of that region, but what we'll do is we'll go through this in stages. So I'm going to firstly select all of the elements of the wheel arch here. I'm going to hit Ctrl E, and I'm going to pull that in that direction just a little bit. I'm not going to want to go too much. Maybe I'll also select this top one here. So anything that's kind of, maybe the bottom one too, anything that's kind of going to go in this one direction here, we'll use it from there. So I'm going to hit E, Ctrl E on that, and just pull that in a little bit, because we're hoping to give this panel a little bit of thickness. At this stage here, what might be nice is to grab everything that's kind of associated here. So maybe let me just delete that one just for now. I'm going to grab all of these edges. I'm going to hit Ctrl E. I'm going to pull these down until I'm intersecting with what's going on down here. And I think I'm going to want to go vertically. I don't think I want to add any more kind of bend to it. Let me just check my references here. Now I don't think we're going to want to add any real bend to that, so we'll just keep that straight down there. Okay. I'm going to go and drop an edge loop all the way around that edge just now, and then delete all the faces that kind of run around for that. And it's going to be awkward just now because this one's going to disappear, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to say mesh separate. So now that this is a separate object to this one. And what we should be able to do now is let's maybe go for this one and this one. I'm going to duplicate those across. And what we want to do for this is going to be the kind of portion that molds into this. So for example, if this is going to be the same color as that, we're not really going to notice. Once that's smooth, for example, we're not really going to notice the kind of difference in between there. So we'll maybe apply the gloss black to that, and then we'll apply it to that one as well. So the idea is that that's going to kind of just form nicely and run off in there. I think what we might want to do is, I think we're going to want to really get rid of these faces here, because these are going to be part of the kind of side portion, which is like a little reflector in the States. So we're not going to need those, so I'm just going to hit delete on those, and also hit delete on those as well. So I think we're going to do something like that. Actually, maybe not hit delete, let's actually bring those back. I'm going to get rid of these ones, but I'm going to take these ones and I'm just going to say mesh, and let's extract that. And again, we'll have lost our other instance around here, so we'll just bring that back in inside there, and then we could maybe do the same for this one too and bring that in. Okay, so I'm going to go and grab these edges now. I'm going to hit Control E and bring this in, just that same kind of gap. And then I'm going to need to merge these ones together and these ones together. Okay, so what we can do is we can hit 3 there just to kind of give it a test. And we can see that that's looking all okay as we run down there. Okay, I'm thinking for these ones we could probably do the same. I'm going to hit Control E and take these this way, and we can merge those. And I'm just trying to take this slow because the last thing we really want to do is end up taking everything kind of like in one direction or multiple directions. Always makes it a little bit more awkward. I'm going to grab these ones, I'm going to hit Control E, and I think for these ones I'm going to pull them down, and as well as down just a little bit towards the back on the Z axis there, just a little bit, something like that. And then what that should allow me to do is target weld up here, but then just take it back a little bit, just to kind of match what we have going on inside there. Okay, so we're taking those down there. We'll maybe just take this down 1. We'll see how this goes. We'll take this down here, and we're just going to target weld all the different bits. We're going to weld down there and there to the existing kind of locations for those in there. So that's looking okay. I don't think we're going to bother with any of this. I think this inside here will be fine as is. I don't think we'll need to worry about adding extras to that. Let's take all of these lower edges here. I'm going to take all of the frontal ones, I'm going to hit Control E, and I'm going to pull these back on the Z there. Okay. We could maybe do all of these. We could have maybe just done these on the Z as well. Yeah, we'll do those on the Z, so we're just going to bring that back that same kind of distance, and then we can merge those together. We're just taking our time here because we don't want to grab everything and merge it on one axis, because it's not necessarily going to be the best option for it. Let's take these ones. This will be a bit awkward because of that bit there, but we do want to take them. So let's maybe go Control E on these. going to pull these sideways and merge these ones. And then here, what we could do, we could try this. I'm going to just target weld this one over here. So we'll kind of see how that goes. And just kind of square that off a little bit there. Okay. I'm going to maybe just add a little bit more distance here. Just underneath like so. And then maybe all of these are a little bit too thin. So maybe take those back a bit as well. Okay, so it looks like we've kind of got all of that blocked off there to some extent. Let's just bring it all back in. I'm going to hit 3 and just see how we're kind of sitting. So we're not looking too bad inside here. Definitely along the right track. So I think what we'll do is in the next episode we'll finish off this front bumper here. We'll maybe think then about taking off all the different panels and extracting a lot of the different panels, moving them across. I'll probably find a slightly better colour. I don't know if this blue is really going to work out for us, especially on the recording, so maybe what I'll do is I'll try and come up with something that's maybe a little bit easier. Maybe a little bit easier to kind of follow along with as we're building. But if you found this episode helpful, please hit that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will see you in the next one.